I'm Tim Loughton, Member of Parliament for East Worthing and Shoreham, and also co-chairman of the All-Party Parliament Group for WASPI Women, and I thought I'd just record a last podcast for 2016. First of all, to wish all the WASPI women out there, both in my constituency and beyond, a very happy Christmas, and just to give you some reassurance that I know a lot of work has gone on this year. Up and down the country, WASPI branches have been formed. You have been campaigning tirelessly, lobbying MPs, lobbying local councils, getting a lot of really good publicity for the whole cause of WASPI. And in Parliament, we've had now 10 debates in the last year. A lot of pressure has been brought to bear. But I know for many it seems as though we actually haven't got anywhere. This was never going to be easy. I'm afraid the government has got a pretty entrenched situation, and it's not on the face of it going to change its position. But I just wanted to reassure you that support at Westminster has never been stronger, and that when we come back after Christmas we will be redoubling our efforts within the all-party group and beyond to fight the cause for WASPI and at last get some transitional changes at the very least for those WASPI women who are being affected, and particularly those worst affected. Now, a few things have happened in the last few weeks. First of all, on the 23rd of November, 5 MPs, led by Barbara Keeley, my co-chair, and I, went to see the new Secretary of State for DWP, Damien Green, at his office. It was useful, I think, to see the new Secretary of State. We've been trying to do it for a while, just to show him the strength of feeling. There was cross-party in Parliament. We had Ulster Unionists there, we had Conservatives, we had Labour members, and we have members from other parties who weren't able to join us at that meeting, but we stand as one. I'm afraid it's clear that the new Secretary of State doesn't mean a new policy. The government is still maintaining that it brought in transitional measures when the legislation was changed back in 2011, that it has no plans to make any further changes in the foreseeable future. They continue to maintain that any changes would be prohibitively expensive, although we went through all the range of options that there are about various relatively cost-neutral proposals right through to some more expensive proposals. So we set those out in detail to Damien Green, and certainly we made him rather more well aware than he was before. But we also concentrated on those very real cases we are now seeing, all of us as MPs coming to our constituency surgeries, working with local WASPI groups, where there's some women are being disproportionately hard hit and are really struggling to make ends meet, and that's not just a few women, it's an increasingly large number of women. So we really made the case that can we not do something starting with those women in the most difficult positions, and I think we made that point very forcefully. Of course, the response from the government, as you would expect, is that there are job opportunities for women to continue working into their 60s or to take up new jobs in their 60s. Now that's easier said than done, and again we've had some examples which we put to Damien Green of women in their 60s being offered overnight bar jobs in nightclubs in a city, Manchester, or stacking shelves in supermarkets in the middle of the night. That's just not appropriate for many women who have worked hard all their lives. They've got other caring responsibilities, family members they're still looking after. Now, we were told about the older people champions that are now in job centres, supposedly more sensitive to the needs and requirements and capabilities of women in their 60s. We'd never heard of these, and then when I asked some more questions, found out that actually there are only 7 older people champions throughout the whole of the country, one for every region. I think clearly, I'm afraid, this just sounds like a bit of a tokenistic exercise, and so we made that point very firmly to Damien Green when we were able to tackle him at DWP questions later on as well. So we made an effort. We went to see the Secretary of State. We made our case forcefully, as we continue to do, so the government can be in absolutely no doubt, and it's been made to the Prime Minister as well, a WASPI woman herself, about the very real hardship that's impacting onto many of our constituents. Now, the last thing that happened was on the 30th of November there was yet another debate in the main House of Commons chamber. It was another Opposition Day debate, this time instigated by the Scottish Nationalist Party. But again, it was not a binding debate. That's the problem with all these votes. So we had a good debate, although the problem was the Scottish Nationalist Party, and we all need to be on the same side on this, rather dominated proceedings. Their spokesman spoke for 38 minutes, which meant the rest of us only got 4 minutes to make our case. Now, I put down an amendment to their motion on behalf of Conservative MPs asking for transitional arrangement. It was an amendment, frankly, nobody could have objected to. It was practical, it was reasonable. Alas, it wasn't accepted. So in the end, the government put down its own amendment, which rather neutralised the whole thing. And it was an unfortunate debate because, frankly, some of the speakers from the SNP were overly critical and acerbic towards the government, and that just drove, I'm afraid, many Conservative MPs who are sympathetic to WASPI back into the arms of voting with the government on their amendment. And so that debate was lost by 293 votes to 234, but with a lot of MPs, including myself, abstaining because we were, I'm afraid, just not prepared to vote with the SNP on a flawed motion, because they are relying on their Landman report, as it's called, which would actually raid the National Insurance Fund. Now, they claim there's a surplus in the National Insurance Fund. There often is, and the next year there's a deficit which has to be made up. And frankly, that's equivalent of raiding a pension fund, and it's just not a practical way forward, and it's rather disingenuous to suggest it is. We have got to find other ways of getting the government to start talking about offering compensation and transitional arrangements, and particularly for those women who are most affected and feeling hardship now. So it's been a long, hard year. It's been an extraordinary year, 2016, but a lot of hard work's gone on within the WASPI campaign, and I really don't want women to feel that it's gone without any purpose. We will be back in the new year. In Parliament, we will redouble our efforts to get this just cause back on the government's agenda. There hopefully will be opportunities when the pension bill comes to the Commons. It's currently still in the House of Lords, so it's proving quite controversial. And there's also the legal advice which WASPI campaigners are now taking. And I have always thought, but I'm not a lawyer, that there are grounds to challenge what the successive governments have done on the lack of reasonableness in the way they're treating women compared to other parts of the population. So there are grounds for taking this forward in the new year. Please don't lose hope. We continue to support you as fervently as we always have at Westminster. We will have a rest over Christmas. You deserve a rest over Christmas. We'll regroup in the new year and take forward this just cause. And eventually, I hope, we will triumph, because it is a just cause and you deserve better. Thank you very much, and do have a happy Christmas.